I love doubles as a game mode. A lot of our casters love doubles as a game mode. Like, people love doubles. It's really hard to do any effective thing that's long term in doubles. The minute they lose a tournament, they're like, this partner's not the one. I'm changing, right?
Where's the West tournaments, man?
Time.
Could you imagine if BMG
Let him
hosted
have it,
even
Toast.
$1,000 tournament? We'd get like 250, 300 people.
Toast,
Go
is
for it.
Brawlhalla dying?
Oh my God.
Welcome to another episode of the Brawlcast with Atrophius and DoubleDime. I'm Atrophius, that is DoubleDime, and today we were talking about esports with a special guest, Toast. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I'm really excited.
Yeah. So yesterday, BMG announced the esports year 9 details. A lot of interesting changes to the format for this season. And we got all the announcements for what events are going to be happening, what lands we're going to, all of that information. And so the community has a lot of sort of like questions and concerns about sort of the situation with esports year 9. And so we invited Toast onto the show so that we can kind of talk about those and hopefully get some details and some more of the thoughts behind kind of the structure for this season, and maybe find out a little bit why things turned out the way that they did. So I'm going to real quick kind of recap real fast some of the announcements just to make sure that we're all on the same page. So first of all, 1v1 is now going to be 2 seasonal circuits for winter and summer. Each of the circuits will have 4 1v1 online tournaments that lead into a Royale. We'll also be having 1v1s, of course, at the mid-seasonal championship that's going to be at CEO, as well as BCX, of course. And then 2v2 will be the usual 4 seasonal championships that we've always had up to this point. That's kind of the big kind of long and short of what the season looks like this year. The 2 LAN events, as I just mentioned, are going to be CEO in Daytona, Florida, and BCX in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think that is about it, right? Am I missing anything, Toast? Can you fill in any additional
No, and
details?
I'd love to actually drill down into a little bit of this too, because I think the way, even in your introduction, the way it's cast is kind of like, ooh, it's scary, and it's like, no, it's not at all. Like, this is actually a really cool year for esports, right? So you did touch on some things there, right? So singles is 4 events inside of a season, inside of a circuit, and we have 2 circuits, right? The cool thing about that, right, is that you still got the equivalent. You've essentially doubled your singles events compared to any previous year where we've done seasonal championships, right? Before, it's 4 singles events, now it's 8 single events over the course of the year. The really cool part about this, right? Well, there's a lot of cool parts about it, but the really cool part about this, right, is that we're working with our tier 1 orgs, with Moose Wars, Estasau, and Brawl League, to kind of run some of those circuit events. And this is not 2017 circuit, right? This is not like that. Like, we have our circuit events, they're set. It's a schedule. There's 4 of them. The prize pool is equal across all of them. They are all power ranked. So these community tournaments are power ranked, right? These are official events, right? They're streaming them on their channel. So when Estasau is doing a tournament, it's not on the Brawlhalla channel. Like, this is building them up. This is specifically to say, these guys are so cool. Look at what they're doing. Let's build them up. Let's grow them. Let's support them as strongly as we can, as much as we can, right? At that same time, we get this really neat system out of it that I think is so cool, right? So you've got 4 events. It's a circuit system, so you get points based on if you place first through, I think, 64th. It's on the esports website, the actual breakdown. And the thing we've done here is we've basically said, life happens, right? And we are dropping the lowest placement of those 4 events, right? So, say Atrophius, you're competing and you get sick one weekend, you just can't do it, right? You get COVID or something, God forbid, whatever. You don't get penalized for that. You have to go visit your family. You have a school trip, whatever.
Hmm.
You have to do well in 3 of 4 because the lowest one gets dropped. Um, and so that we did intentionally to allow a little bit of flexibility for our players. So we're not saying, hey, every 3-ish weeks you need to be competing. You need to dedicate a weekend to this.
Hmm.
A lot of people are doing that anyways, but right, like it makes it too precarious if it's 4 events and you lose one, you're a quarter of the way, you're screwed, right? Like
Right.
your internet cuts, sucks, like you're done, right?
My
So
power goes
that's
out.
the first thing. Exactly, right?
Right.
Exactly. So that's the first thing is like we built it with a little bit of forgiveness in mind. You know, there's a tiebreaker system there for whatever. And then the other cool part about this too is that it's North America 4 players, Europe
Mm.
4 players, and then South America 4 players, right? So if you compare this to last year to the Royales, which are one of my favorite and I think one of the best additions we've ever had to a year of esports, right? South America is a legit region. Like no one can say otherwise. They
Right.
won VCX, right? Like they legitimately are, you know, I would argue better than North America at this point
Sure.
in where things are. You know, it's which is really exciting to see. So we can't be kind of snubbing that region anymore. In not that we were snubbing them before, but right, like they need equal treatment. We have 3
Right.
major regions right now that all need to be treated equal. Um, and so now you have 12 players, 4 South America, 4 North America, and 4 Europe, right? And the Royale themselves, this is very different. And I'm going to talk about this more kind of as we get closer to the events and the dev streams and that sort of stuff. But essentially, it's a media day like we've done. There will be a live component where we talk to the players and have them, you know, talk to each other, maybe beef a little bit, and you get to know them, right? Like this is something that was very fun last year.
Hmm.
Round robin, 12 players. That'll happen as is. Sunday, championship day. So there's a couple of things we're trying to do. One that's new, and this is still in the works. So this is not a promise. This is I'm still figuring out how exactly logistically this could work and
Right.
all of that. We're planning on making that championship day open to the public for spectators to come and view.
Oh.
Cool.
Live audience. It's something we've wanted to do. We're moving into a slightly bigger space is the current plan. And so we can actually accommodate that because it's more players and there's 2 of them. We want to try this.
Okay.
The other thing is that it's, and I don't have a graphic for this, and so I really need a graphic to talk you guys through this, but essentially there's a redemption bracket. So for the players who
Okay.
don't make it into that championship Sunday, that final Sunday, there's a way for one person to make it up and get into there and have a chance to win the whole thing,
Oh, I
right? So
like
if
that.
you do
That's good.
poorly in the round
Interesting.
robin, you're not out completely. Unless, and the way it works is that if you got the 11th and 12th place, I'm sorry, you did too poorly, you're out. Good, right? It's 6th through 10th has a chance of the redemption bracket.
If
Nice.
you go 0-11, sorry.
Like, I'm sorry, it's, you know, it sucks, but it's a competitive thing. And so
Yeah,
it's a
Sure.
fun format, I think, that gets people playing. And so on Sunday, people still have something to do. They have a reason to be there, and they're, you know, you have a chance at redemption, your chance at like beating your way back into the finals. And I think that's really cool.
Real quick on the format, then, since it's 12 players instead of 8, is it going to be like top 5 and then plus the redemption gets in to the
You
final
got it.
Sunday? Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
top 5, 4 in uppers and 1 in lowers.
Gotcha.
Um, it's a little weird, but with 12 players and the time frames that we have to operate within and everything, we've gone through about like 13 or 14 different permutations of what a redemption bracket can
yeah,
look
of
like.
course.
Hmm.
And a lot of the time you end up and you're like, this is just a lowers double elimination bracket. Like it's just, there's no point then.
Right.
Like it just kind of sucks. It's just, you're making a double elimination bracket and you're having people start in lower side. Like, okay. Like, so we went through a lot of different variations there to get to where we are now with it.
Nice.
And so that's pretty sick, I think.
Nice.
Doubles is doubles, right? We have 4 seasonal doubles events that hasn't changed.
Hmm.
Kind of love that. Doubles is a great game mode. You know, people are like, they hate doubles. Doubles is bad. They're kind of killing the game mode. And we'll talk more about that later. I'm sure it's kind
Yeah,
of, you
I
guys
got
have
I got a
questions.
couple of questions on that one. So.
Yeah.
That's not the case at all. If I wanted to kill doubles, you would just have no doubles events. Like that's what would happen, right? Like
Right.
everyone loves doubles. I love doubles. People love doubles. Here's some of what's cool about this year, and part of why people look at this and they're like, this is not what I want, but you know, you're looking for understanding, right? One of the
Sure.
things here that is really cool about this circuit system is it's the closest we're ever going to be able to get to a pro series, a sustainable pro series that allows us to do something long form, long term with players that lets us repeat that and build on that, right? So Pro Series, as you see in other games, they're closed, right? You know your teams, you know what's happening. If you look at a football, thing, it's the same thing. You know the teams. Or hockey, because Diamond's here and he's Canadian and he loves hockey, right?
Mhm.
Like, you know your teams, right? And you get to the playoffs and whatever. That's impossible to do in a game where the focus of competitive esport is open entry events, right? If we talk about Brawlhalla Esports, what's really important here is low barrier to entry and accessibility, right?
Mhm.
Those are key things, right? If you talk about Brawlhalla as a whole, right? Like, think about the design of the game. It's so easy to get into a game. You just hit the A button a bunch of times on your controller and you're in free for all. You're playing with people. That's all
Right.
you have to do. Don't need to read anything. Don't need to do anything. The game just kind of works, right? So the challenge with an esport that has that as a basis is, how do you marry that open entry philosophy with a cool thing that lets there be this through line for people who are more into it and more intense and Pro Series, right? And that sort of thing. And that's a challenge that you have with the seasonal championships, right? A seasonal championship, which we've been doing from 2016 onward, right? Even when we only did 3 of them, y'all have been
Mhm.
around forever. You know what this is like.
Yeah.
You win and then it's over. And that's
Yeah.
it, right? Like, we can talk about storylines all we want, but you win and that's all it has to be. And the next one is a whole new thing, and you win and then it's over. Or you lose and then it's over, right? There's no continuation to that, which is why the Royales last year were so cool, is because you won and then there was something else, right? Winning was
Right.
not just you made money. Winning was you made money and you got placed into this elite cross-regional competitive thing where
Mhm.
you were then essentially each quarter you were the best player in the world,
Right.
right? And that was really cool about it. And that's what's cool about this one this time. And we're able to bring more players out, which for me is sick.
So, real quick,
Go
let
ahead.
me let,
I'm
let me
talking a
jump in
lot
real
here,
quick.
so
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just want to jump in real quick and talk about the Royales for a second,
yeah.
because one of the concerns that came up in the community is that there are fewer Royales this year, and my theory on it, and I'm just gonna say this, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or not. My theory on it is, because of the way that you've designed the circuit system, there was no way to have more than a couple of these
Yeah.
per year.
I mean,
Like,
you
you couldn't fit 4 Royales into this
no.
system without overloading the tournaments so that they're happening like every weekend, which is too much, right?
Yeah, you've pretty much got it. And yeah, you've got it, right? It's a few things. It's one, it's, the circuits lend themselves to fewer royales. That's just kind of the way a circuit works. In order for it to be good, it's that, or I'm cramming, everyone's playing every single weekend and there's no relief, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
one thing. Another thing too is that to bring things to a level of parity across our 3 major regions, to do that well, right? Even if we went back to 9, it's just not as good, and a round robin with 9 players kind of sucks,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like it's not a good format. Um, and the long term, right? The idea of having 4 events leading into 1 event, right? Creating this longer storyline, this longer through line, I think that's really important too, right? Where that is like kind of a key and critical point in us being able to grow ourselves for the future as an
Sure.
esport.
Sure. Dime, did you have any questions you wanted to jump on real quick before we let
Nope.
Toast
Oh,
continue?
please.
No, the Royale, I am totally all for the Royale system and the circuit system. I like the idea of there being more meaningful Brawlhalla. The way it worked in the past is we had 4 tournaments and they were a long ways away from each other, and you saw it all the time that people just stopped playing in between tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
They did. We all did. I was guilty of it. Atrophius was guilty of it. We all would. So the fact that there's now 4 tournaments relatively close to each other, you got to stay involved if you want to continue to be good, and it keeps you playing meaningful Brawlhalla. I know there was community tournaments, but a lot of us have a tough time getting up for $100. So you know what I mean. So
Let me touch on community tournaments a little bit here, because you brought it up, and this is something that people see in the doomsday, and it's really entertaining because it's so far from the truth, right? So community tournaments alone, right? We brought on 3 new tier 1 BCTI partners this year. So for people who don't know, there's a program we run. We've been running it since 2020 called the Brawlhalla Community Tournament Initiative, where we literally just give people prize pool and money
Hmm.
right? Like I don't know how else to say it. Like we have literally every year since its inception, we've done over $100,000 a year in community pricing every year,
Absolutely, yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
right? Like we don't ever talk about those numbers, right? But that's the reality, and so you can do the math from 2020 to 2024. You know, we're looking at about $400,000 across 4 years in community pricing and support.
When you say three new T1 tournament orgs, you're not referring to Brawl League
Correct.
or
So
so
these
these
are
are
people we're
new.
bringing on additionally because
Ooh,
they've been doing good work, because they're new. So we did a application process, kind of almost like a
Okay.
grant. We had 14 or 15 people apply,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, with the caveat that this year has been tough to grow things, like the community partner program. We grew it, right? We're actually going to announce them later this week. Is the plan? They're really
Okay.
excited. They're all cool people. Um,
they're people we know.
yeah, they're people you know. They're not like
Yeah,
total
yeah.
random strangers, right?
Well, I mean, people like
Um,
Atrophius and I know. You know what I mean?
you'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that
Oh
makes sense.
yeah,
That's
that
cool.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll
Okay.
yeah, like they've been around for time and they're doing good work.
Good. That's awesome.
Um,
Nice.
in February, March alone, we've got 19 community tournaments that we're funding.
Perfect.
Woo!
That's including the $100 tournaments, right? As well as the kind of the larger tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
Um,
by the
go
way,
ahead.
I wasn't slighting $100 tournaments. I'm so washed.
No,
I play in
no.
them and I give everything I have in them. So that's not me. That's somebody like a Sandstorm waking up to go play in it. For me, it's like I am giving everything to get 12th in this $100 tournament. So, anyways, go on. I apologize. Yeah.
No, no, you're good. And I
Yeah.
didn't take it as you sliding $100 tournaments or anything.
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I'll talk about it more because I'm sure you'll have questions, but like growing the community aspect of what we do is really important.
Yeah.
And finding ways to sustainably grow that is really important. Um, and that's what we've been doing, right? That's what we're doing. This we've already done with the 3 new tier 1s and all of that, and it's like they're pumped, I'm pumped. They already have events planned. You'll see them in the game client soon. Like
That's cool.
it's cool.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Oh, that's great. That's good. Yeah. So I guess the question I have I guess it's a bit of an aside, but you're trying to grow the community side. Um, is it kind of a way for BMG to step back a little bit, let it grow
Ooh,
organically, let it grow organically that
damn.
way? And of course, BMG is still going to host their mid seasons and their BCXs. But is it a way for them to be like, okay, we can step back from this a little bit to maybe conserve budget and stuff like that?
Um, no. It's a really good question, right? So, like the cynical side of me could be like, yeah, community tournaments are cheaper for us to run, and they provide a similar service for the community, and that is better for the bottom line, and it's better for the return, and blah 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 blah. No.
No, that's good.
Um,
No, I mean I don't mean that again. Yeah,
no, no, it's like we love esports. I love esports. The esports team loves esports. Internally, people who are not on the esports team love esports, right? Like it's not going anywhere. It's literally 100% because we think esports is so cool. We're like, let's let the community do the thing, right? It's also part of the reason why we don't have like a really rigorous, here's your community tournament license, you know, like we don't
Mm.
do that sort of thing
thank God.
because if you want to play the game, play the game. If you want to do a tournament, do a tournament.
Yeah.
Just do the thing that makes you happy, you know, as long as you're not hurting other people. Like
Yeah, of
like
course, for
it's
sure.
cool, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think it is a sustainability thing though, as a whole separate thing in that like a successful esport isn't just developer funded and isn't
of
just
course not.
developer supported. A successful esport is community supported and grassroots. We all know that. We've all seen that in a million other games, especially in fighting games, right? Um, and that's something that's also really key and critical. And so, even in what we're doing with community, there are times where we'll have sponsors come to us and be like, "Hey, we want to do stuff. We want to, you know, blah blah blah." And a lot of the times, we'll give them to the community, right? So like I don't know if you guys remember last year we had the trolley tournament, the trolley
Yeah,
tournament,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? those guys are awesome. And we had a conversation with them a little while ago, and they're like, look, we want to do community stuff. And I was like, look, let me hook you up with the cool people we've got in our community, right? I got $0 from that. Like, just straight up, like, we did not get money from that. Like, the reason we did that was to boost a community group that was doing really cool work, and to get more money into the community, because that's important, right? To get more money into prizing, get more money into tournaments, that sort of thing. And that's cool. And we have some similar things in the pipeline that I can't talk about for this year for some of our folks as well, right? Like,
yeah,
that's okay. I get it.
Yeah.
Get them drunk at CEO. We'll figure things out later.
So the community has been kind of like doomsdaying a little bit on Twitter, and a couple of their concerns I wanted to bring up just to see like what your thoughts are on them. One of the questions I keep seeing repeatedly, which honestly makes no sense to me, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Toast, is Brawlhalla dying?
Oh my god. No. This is, I love seeing, so I love this, right? Because it's like, these are the people, right? Everyone feels what they feel, and that is super valid, and that is super legitimate, and that is, you own that, and that is 100% yours, right? People who love this game and invest in the community, one thing happens that's maybe not like super like everything is amazing in butterflies and sparkles, and it's like, well, that's it, guys, phone it in, we're done. That 3,000 hours I played, goodbye, we're done. Like, so let me address that very direct. Like, the game is not dying. It's a ridiculous thing to say, and the esport's not dying. And that's one I've seen around a lot that kind of like gets me and makes me laugh. So what people need to know, right, or what I'd like you guys to know, and I'm very open about this, is my philosophy and my stance here is not 2024, right? The way I do my planning, and the way I do my year planning, and the way the team does it, specifically around esports, is I say, in 5 years, where do I want to be? Where is the esport going to be in 5 years? What's our goal, and how do we get there, right? So every single change, every single move is built around this idea of sustainability and growth. What is going to let us be sustainable and going to allow us to grow in a way that lets us be mobile and do cool things and have cool tournaments and have prize pools and trophies and production, all of that sort of thing. And so I think a lot of the people who look at it, they see the immediacy of it. They have the knee-jerk reaction of it. And then also, let's not kid ourselves, it's really fun to be negative. Everyone loves being negative. It's great. I love being negative, right?
It's easier to be negative.
Right?
Yeah.
And at the same time, though, like, people don't have the same context that I do, that you guys do,
right,
that other people do, right? I have all the information. And so my job is to make the best decision I can with all of the information I have, right? And it's not just me alone. Like, I have a team of people who are all like super invested and all into this. And it's, like that's really important. So
well, one thing that
things are actually better than ever, which is a weird thing to say because people will disagree with me, but
I know.
They are.
But that's the thing, is like, one thing that I think we really need to put in a context is like esports as a whole, as an industry right now, is constricting like
in a flux.
Aggressively. Like,
wasn't it just yesterday that Overwatch League shut down?
Yeah, Overwatch League
ceased to exist. That's
Overwatch
one of the biggest
League has
IPs in the world.
Into a different format now.
Actually, Overwatch just released their new esports plan on Tuesday, yesterday, and it's actually really sick.
I'm sure
I saw it. It was like an hour before we released ours, and I was like, man, they beat us. No, I watched it. It was great.
No, that's good.
I'm excited for them. But you bring up a really good point, right? So Riot just laid off 500 people.
Sure did.
Discord just laid off like 1,000 people. Amazon laid off people. Twitch laid off people. Google's laid people off. Rocket League just got $1.7 million from their prize pool. They also changed production companies. They have talent who are not coming back, right? What people see is 2024, and they think COVID is over and the impacts of COVID are gone, right?
No.
But what I can tell you is that pre-COVID, in 2019, to run an event versus in 2024 to run an event, we are living on different planets at this point.
Yeah.
Not only that, right? What has happened too is that all of the people who have been pumping money into esports realized, like, oh, I'm not getting my money back. This is not a sustainable thing. The return is not worth it. And so now every other piece of the equation, when you're doing stuff, they've all raised their prices because they need to make their ends meet, as they should, as is their right, right? Excuse me. And so now all of that gets passed on. I really like to talk about 2019. You guys were there at 2019 because I think a lot of people compare 2019 to every further year post-COVID, right? Like, why can't we go back to 2019? Why can't we be at 7 dream hacks? Why can't we do 1 million lands? Like, why can't we also do onlines? And there's a lot of things that are different, right? So in 2019, to be at DreamHack for what, 6, 7, 8 events, something like that, what it cost us to do that is less than the cost to do 2 of the dream hacks last year.
Wow.
When we talk about production, there was this little group, a little company called Bago Productions, right?
I know that one.
I remember them.
Yeah, right. 3 of us, we did every land, and what we got paid, if I were to tell you the hourly rate, it wasn't hourly, but if I were to do hourly, probably we were making like $2 an hour or something, right?
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable for anyone. And
Right.
it's not healthy for anyone. And it's a different time, right? Like, all of us were ready to be there. We wanted to be there. It was a choice
Right.
we made to be there. Like, knowing this, that was what we did. But so that 2019 pre-COVID world, everything was cheap, right? And then you hit COVID. Everything online, when you're running things online, is cheap, right?
Yeah.
I had a whole studio in my office in my apartment, and we ran everything remote. And like, that's straightforward. Like, online stuff is easier to run, and we have good netcode. Like,
Yeah,
the
true.
game has great
Yeah.
netcode. Like,
Yeah.
and so the environment is just different. And what you're seeing, I think, in 2024 is still the after effects of COVID, when everything was like crazy high and everyone was like making a gajillion dollars because everyone was stuck at home and was spending on digital, right? And now that's not happening. Inflation is higher. Sponsors and investors are pulling out. And so now you're in a position where prices across the board are higher, and we're gonna keep seeing that, right? Like, it's kind of like the 2008 housing crash, which, half of our viewers weren't alive for. Or, I jest, but like, that ended, and then you still felt the effects of that for the next 5, 6, 7 years, right?
Right.
And that's what we're seeing, right? People say esports winner last year, esports winner is going. Like, it's not stopping.
It's ongoing.
Like, and I think that context that you bring up, Atrophius, is really important. Like, what I want people to see is actually we grew in events that we're doing. We grew in community support, right? We're still doing lands. We're still doing invitationals. Like,
Right.
we're doing really damn well for ourselves right now.
Oh no, that's part of why I brought it up, is because I feel like a lot of players don't understand how lucky we are.
I was all over Twitter. I took my one tweet and I just attached it to every ungrateful player that was there, and I was just like, just you could be a Smash player. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
it could be so much worse. It really could be
so much worse. It could be. We have support. We have devs that care. I have criticized BMG about a lot of things, and
same.
This has never ever been one of them. Ever. The devs are unreal to their players. And and just people don't understand that. So I don't know. They see one number go smaller and they go, what the hell? Like,
on that topic, since Dime brought it up, the prize pool is shrinking a bit this year. Can you talk a little bit about why that is the case, and maybe what we can look forward to for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I want to throw out there too is that people are looking at the number for their own region, doing some napkin math, and then they don't have all the information. The prize pool is lower. This is also a year where the prize pool is split evenly between 3 regions instead of 2.
That's true.
North America and Europe do not get the major lion's share of the split. Now it's 3 ways instead of 2 ways. That's a really big thing I want to call out too, right? Because that's something that people haven't noticed or said. Like, South America got a big buff in a lot of ways. When you look at like the equality of pricing and how it's split.
Sure.
Mid-season championship still's got a $100,000 prize pool. That's split down the middle for singles and doubles. BCX, I don't want to share with you right now, but it is more than mid-season. Use your imagination.
Sure.
Right. My stance on this, right, is that we moved to $1 million at a time where we were able to do that in the way that all of the other expenses were much lower. And so the pricing could be much higher, right? And coming back to this post-COVID world, that's not the reality. And so frankly, I've always thought we've been kind of due for a correction for quite some time.
I do want to. Can I make a quick comment on that?
Yeah.
BMG didn't just pocket the extra money; they threw it back into the prize pool for those years. So let's just look at it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
real.
Gave back when they could have said, "Let's keep this," and they still gave it to us in 2021 to 2022 or 2020 to 2022. Yeah. So let's just. For all the players out there that are complaining, let's just be real. Again,
it's cool. They can complain. It's their right, and I appreciate you saying that, Dime. I do. But like, I have to acknowledge, like, the prize pool is lower, and people have their own expectations for things, and that's cool too, right? Yeah. But
for all the
honestly,
players that see like a reduction in prize pool and attribute it to like poor finances in the game or whatever, it's not that. It's more like increasing cost of doing things, right?
Yeah, we're like, we want the $1 million. If I wanted to give, for $1 million prize pool, then the only events would be mid-season and BCX, and there would be no community events. There would be no onlines. There'd be nothing like that, right? So you can really think about it as like we've been due for a correction for years, right? We've been living really lucky that we've had a phenomenal prize pool, and we still have a really good prize pool this year compared to nearly, not even compared. Like, we have a great prize pool, and so now we've corrected. I look at this really positively. Right? My viewpoint is 5 years in the future from now. I think that now we're at a point where things can start growing again. And that's my hope. I'm never going to sit here and make a promise like it's going to get better and bigger and better and bigger every year, but that's the goal. And with a 5-year plan, like that's the goal, and it's a plan. And right, we're in a place where we can do that. It's really hard to grow from $1 million, right? Like,
I want more.
$1 million is a lot of money.
It is.
And that's like, it's a lot of money. And then the other thing, that people look at and they see it, and they're not thinking like it's $1 million that's ended being split North America, South America, Europe, Southeast Asia, previous years Australia, now Middle East, right? It goes in a lot of places, right? But it's a lot of money. And I think people tend to be like, I think sometimes think of us like Riot or something, and it's like, bro, my esports team is me and one other person officially. Like, that's the esports team internally. Like, I have other people who are sick and gracious and they help out and they want to be involved. Yeah. But like, if we go by the org structure,
who's employed?
It's me and one other guy, and that's our esports team. Like, it's funny. It's just funny. And so I honestly look at it again. I think we're in a really, really good position for a 5-year plan. I think we're in a really good position to actually be able to grow, provided there's nothing crazy, another pandemic or anything like that happening again. And that's where we are now, right? And so that's why I'm actually excited, because even though the prize pool cut, we were able to add stuff in. We're able to create a sustainable infrastructure, more sustainable at least, and we're able to create these things like the circuits that, if they go well, we'll come back, and we're kind of looking at, hey, this is a base for a lot of stuff, right? We're also still seeing prize pools at mid-season of $100,000 and at BCX of more than that, and that's intentional too, right? I look at it and I'm like, people are flying to this event. They have to pay for a hotel, they have to pay for an entry pass. This is also the only open events where you can play cross-regionally with anyone in the world who shows up, right? That's really important. And so those things are critical. BCX is critical. BCX is one of the most important events. You guys were there in 2020. Tom, were you there in 2022?
No,
Not in
not
You
quite
didn't
connected,
make it.
2022.
sadly.
And then 2023, I had COVID.
Oh, I remember. That's so
Yeah,
sad.
it was so
Okay,
sad.
Atrophies, you've been there though, and
I've
you
been there.
know, like
Yeah.
the BCX vibe,
It's different.
it's incredible. Like
I
it's
wanted to quit
so
this game.
magical.
I wanted to quit this game until BCX 2022 happened.
COVID
Like
was
the
hard.
COVID was hard. Like,
COVID was hard for the West Coasters.
oh yeah. I'm not even
Um,
West Coast and I felt it.
yeah, and like BCX is it's gonna
It's
be great
different.
this year. It's
Yeah.
different, and it's gonna be great this year, and people should go and have a good time.
I
And
will.
we'll send more
Be
information
here
about it
this
later.
year.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm already pretty much confirmed for CEO as long as the flights aren't several $1,000s. So
Yeah.
What I would
Good
say
luck.
about CEO is book now. The hotel
I'm
blocks are
intending
still
to.
available.
Yeah.
It's a big event.
They won't
and
be for
some of those
long
hotels
because
are expensive, and some of those
yeah.
hotels are not. And Jabali was nice enough. I think he held some rooms for us because we were waiting for this announcement yesterday to show everything off and get everything out there.
Awesome.
But what's going to happen is what always happens with lands, and it's what fighting game players do, is they'll wait until 2 weeks before the event, panic, and then register.
Live on
Yeah.
the street while they're there. Yep.
So you,
Don't do that in Daytona.
couch hop. Yeah.
So while we're talking about lands, it's notable that we did go to some additional lands last year, notably some dream hacks and such that we're not attending this year. Is there a particular reason for not doing more lands or not going to DreamHack or maybe anything like Combo Breaker or any events like that?
I would love for us to do a combo breaker one day. The event is really sick. It's really cool.
I know I missed it every time, and now we don't go anymore. I'm really upset about
They have the best merch, honestly.
Yeah.
It was before I was competitive, 2016, 2017. That shirt was the best shirt.
I still have that one.
It's so good.
I never went,
the
and I
boat
somehow
bar.
ended up with that shirt.
Same. I love that one. Yeah, I mean, realistically, what it comes down to is that doing a land properly is logistically a lot and is financially a lot. Even when we're partnered with fantastic people like DreamHack or CEO, right? Like it's a big investment in man time and in every other way you can imagine. It's the same thing. People are like, "Why no Europe land?" I ask myself, why no South America land every day of my life? Because, bro, I want to go. I want to get on a plane
Right?
and go. Like that sounds like fun. And it comes down to like, can I do this without negatively impacting the rest of the year in a way that is very noticeable? And the answer sometimes is no, right? Kostelix actually had a tweet where he was like, if they're doing the royales at the expense of lands, don't do that. It doesn't work that way. Like I wish it would work that way, but it doesn't really work that way. And even if that was the case, removing something that makes the online tournaments and competition mean something for the more meaningful, right, for your cream of the crop, top of the top players, for something that's more open, that's like a fuzzy equation that doesn't really have a clear return, right?
Sure.
So Europe as well. Like I'll touch on this because this was maybe been your question when people are like, why no Europe land? I mean, I'll just be clear. Like Valencia nearly didn't happen because we literally shipped all of the setups ahead of time, well ahead of time. They got caught in customs, and then we didn't get them until Friday night, right? So we moved a 3-day tournament to 2 days. We had to get other setups that were different CPUs, different GPUs. Like the monitors were okay, I think, and consistent, but like not what you'd want, for a competitive experience, right? And people will complain about the setups all day as they're allowed to do, but at the end of the day, everyone is playing on the same setups. And so if you feel like the setups are shitty, they are equally shitty, right? If you feel the setups are great, they are equally great. But they are identical, right? Like the setups we have are identical intentionally, because if you lose because you're bad or your opponent is better. If you lose, it's not because your hardware is bad. It's because in the competition someone beat you, right? It's just a lot. We'll go back. Like Europe lines will come back. South America will get a LAN at some point. I don't know when that's going to be, but like I want very much to make that happen. I think it would be so freaking cool. It'd be so fun.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, that would be sick.
Does do you or BMG feel like you're missing out on that footprint of being at more lands, being visible on the ground?
Um,
Because I feel like there have been
no,
a lot of
I
players,
don't.
people that walk by and see it and go, "Wow, this is a cool game," and then they play it.
Yeah, but and I don't have these numbers, and I'm going to speak for I'm speaking for me here generally, right? Is when you go to something like DreamHack, right, and people are going to compete, they're going for their game. They want to play
Yeah.
their game. They don't want to play your game. They want to play their game, right?
Yep.
Um, I see lands, especially ones where they're shared with other games. It's something we're doing for our existing community, right?
Yeah.
That's a really cool thing for our community to come together, to be together, to compete together, to play together, and to have really cool experiences around our game. If other people who are there are like, hell yeah, this is sick, I'm going to try it, let's do it, that's fucking awesome. Pardon my language. It's after 10 p.m. That's great, right?
Broadcast after
But
dark. Here we go.
Yeah.
I've been trying real hard to not swear
It's
so
fine.
far, but
Okay.
It's fine.
You're good.
there's
You've
my
heard
one.
me talk. You've heard me talk.
Right? Like that's sick, but like at the end of the day, like I personally am not taking us to a land for a conversion from other people who are into there for other games. I'm taking us there because it's a really cool thing for our community to be at and for our community to experience.
Fair enough.
You know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I have a question that comes up a lot.
Go for it.
Do you think that Brawlhalla will ever go to Evo?
Great question. I think Evo is a really sick event. And it's something we've talked about before. Vegas is a cool city, depending on who you are. It's a really
close.
uncool city,
It's
depending on who you
close.
are as well.
Vegas is a
There's-
tough city to go to with kids, I think. Which
There's
is
lots to do for kids. There really is. I'm not even kidding. There is.
There's
tons
great
to do
shows.
for
No,
kids,
no,
yeah.
Sure.
Vegas is cool. I like Evo. I'd love to be at Evo one day. It's not this year.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a great question.
Could
I don't really have another answer for you other than like it
Make
would be cool if we
history.
went.
be the first free-to-play game on the main stage of Evo and make history.
That'd be sick.
It would be pretty sick.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I want to pull back to 2v2s for a minute.
Yeah, I
Real
got
quick.
some too here.
Y'all got feelings.
Yeah.
Give it to me.
Yeah. So 2v2s is pretty much the same as it always has been. Is there any reason why BMG chose to prioritize ones over twos and when it was building kind of this circuit system? And as a follow-up to that, is there any chance to maybe have a circuit system similar to this for twos in the future?
To be honest, it's very difficult because Brawlhalla players switch teammates every 2 days.
I knew that was the answer.
And I hate saying it, right? Like I love doubles as a game mode. A lot of our casters love doubles as a game mode. Like people love doubles. Like doubles is an important thing, and it's important for the esport. It's really hard to do any effective thing that's long term in doubles because there's like 3 teams a year who stay together, and everyone else changes the minute they lose a tournament. They're like, this partner's not the one. I'm changing, right?
Not true. Atrophius and I have been a team since 2019.
Okay, but when was the last time you guys won anything?
That's true. Whoa. That makes us the best team because we just keep playing.
Oh no, like that really it's that it, it's that, and then anything with doubles is times 2. Right?
Sure.
If I did a royale with doubles with 2 players, you're probably getting 4 teams to come because that's 8 players,
Right.
and now that's the footprint I have to work around, right? Specifically this year, we're trying to launch the circuits and make the circuits successful, and so a lot of the energy and motivation is going to the circuits because it is something that, again, gets us to this really nice medium between a pro series that's closed and a way to still have open. All of the events in the circuit are open events, right? You don't have to compete in any of the other ones. You can just compete because you want to compete, and that's it. Like it's that for everyone, right? And so that's a really important thing that gets off to a good foot, and that people are excited and want to participate in that. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I'd love to do a league thing with doubles. It's really hard. It's really hard to do something that works.
Sure.
And I'm not going to sit here and make a 13-year-old, 14-year-old competitor sign a legal piece of paper that says you have to be with his partner for the duration of this thing. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
No. You know?
I guess the follow up to that is though, as singles optimizes is the word I'll use, and the games begin to get slower and slower. Wouldn't it be nice to have potentially the more entertaining game mode have more of a spotlight shone on it?
Ooh, that is
Um,
Because
yeah,
there's
but it's
only
not happening in 2024.
that's true. I'm just
Right?
saying
So,
because there's only really Sandstorm, the Brazilians, Godly, who are boomy, who are really super entertaining. You know, explosive,
well,
super entertaining players. Whereas
well.
everybody else is more methodical.
I
Whereas in
will.
doubles, it explodes all the time. Huge 2v1 combos where people are taking 200 damage and dying immediately. And it's like, oh my god. It's like more like the WWE. Chairs are flying everywhere. All that stuff. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to shine that spotlight that way?
so I want you to shift how you're looking at this. And instead of looking at it as doubles got
I don't.
diminished,
I don't
right?
think it.
I'd rather frame it as singles got enhanced.
That's true.
And that's the way I'd like to think about it, right? Like very intentionally, we kept doubles to be at least the same as it has been
Of
event
course.
number wise
Yeah.
as previous years, right?
Yeah.
What we did is we added singles stuff. To your point though, like doubles is a very explosive game mode. It is very fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to cast. And sometimes things are happening. You're like, what is happening? That's crazy. Whoa, what they do off stage. Whoa, like that stuff's really cool. I come back to this idea of like, I'm looking at this with 5 years in mind, right? So this year I'm focusing, and esport is focusing a lot on building a cool system for singles. And as we grow, doubles is going to receive that treatment at some point as well.
Oh, for sure.
It's like I can't do both at the same time.
No, of course
not. Sure.
And I'm not saying I got diminished. I was the first one to go, hey, it's still got the same amount of tournaments. What are you people talking about here? Nobody got shafted. I tweeted that. Yeah. So, but
and for the regular, like that's why doubles is still getting half of the prize pool with the lands too. Like doubles is a major game mode. Like it just is. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Related to prize pools, one of the things that got brought up by the community was that as the prize pools were kind of reduced, doubles kind of gets the same amount of money as singles, which is less money to individual players as a result. Is there any, I guess, sort of like looking long term, is there a way that we can potentially get doubles to a point where it's like payout parity, I guess is probably the way that I'm trying to phrase it in terms of like players and placements?
Yeah, I full parity is hard because you're doubling how much you're paying, which is why if you see singles, right? Like if you look at BCX, right, we paid out I think to top 128 or something crazy, or maybe even deeper, and doubles only paid out to like top 64, right? Because you're always dealing with like a factor of two there.
Of course, yeah,
exactly, double the people. So full parity, I mean, I can't say, but what I can say is like, yes, growth, yes, more, and yes, it's gonna be better, in the splits and the money in the future. This year things aren't really going to change. The year's been announced, things are kind of set in stone, and all the planning and pieces and cogs can fit where they are right now. But yeah, I mean, the idea is growth. Like at the end of the day, the idea is really truly growth, and so it's not just growth for singles; it's growth for doubles as well. Does that answer your question?
No,
are you like that's bullshit toast? Like you can say that at any point, and that's okay. And I'll be like, that's cool. Like, okay.
Bog standard corporate answer, whatever.
Jeez, I didn't.
That's me
I
with
didn't
my
invite
student
you here
tie.
to. Yeah. I didn't invite you here to PR speak us, Toast.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Say things without saying things.
No, dog, I don't PR speak.
Dime, did you have a question real quick?
I had a couple. They kind of all been kind of answered here.
I'm gonna while you're thinking about it, I'm gonna just go ahead and hit the elephant in the room real quick. Um, what is going on with Australia?
Yeah, that was an elephant.
Um,
Um,
uh, there's not really much I can talk about here, but I will say is that everything we do, everything I do, is based on data. And at the end of the day, the data needs to meet certain thresholds for things to work. Um, and I wouldn't look at this as the end of the region, right? I would say this is again, we're at a point for growth now in the 5 year plan. So that's really what I can say. Like, people have messaged me like, is it gone forever? Is it never coming back? And again, growth is the idea, and if the growth is in the right way and the data is the right way, then we can look at that.
I think it probably boils down to it depends on the players. If the players will still play and work on the region and grow it in a healthy way,
I,
then
I, I will say that like there's still the BCTI and there's still community tournaments, and even the tier ones, if they ever want to do an Australian tournament, like that's well then they're right. Like what we do is we say we're going to provide you support. We don't usually say you have to do this thing, or else
right.
we're going to cut you, right? Like the point is autonomy with support, and so like there's that
Mm,
piece to it too, which of course is not the same as official tournaments, but you know it, there are other avenues for support.
Of course.
gotcha. Can we talk about Middle East, North Africa for a moment?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
absolutely.
Yeah, so like
Giveth
new
and then
region
taketh
coming
away.
in, and yeah,
Yeah.
a new region
So
coming in and getting official support.
yeah, and so I'm really excited for this. And so you'll notice it's only two events: it's a singles event and a doubles event.
Mhm.
And that's really because every time you do a new region, there's something you are not thinking about, right?
Sure.
Like we did the Japan Invitational last year, two
I think it
years
was
ago,
2 years
right?
ago.
I
Yeah,
think it was
2 years
2 years
ago.
ago. Wow, time flies. Turns out Japan is really hard to pay out players because of how their laws are around esports
Yeah.
earnings.
Yep.
I think it's categorized actually as gambling. Um,
Yep.
and so that's a very difficult region to navigate that sort of thing. And so
Right.
there's nothing to my knowledge about that kind of the Middle East, North Africa region. But that's what it is. And so what we're doing here is we're basically saying like, look, if you're in those regions and there's a list of countries on the website, you can compete in the regions you've normally been competing in, right? So someone like Introverta here, who's been competing in Europe, right?
Yeah.
Um, he can still compete in Europe, right? Like we're not penalizing someone by saying here's official support.
Mm.
Um, Europe, however, cannot play in the Middle East, North Africa
Yeah,
stuff because it's
that's
not
fair.
for them, right?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
for the people in those regions, and it's for us to learn and gather data around how we can do something in those regions that's sustainable, that's successful, and has people feeling good about it. We could do them and it could be a disaster, but again, it's all about like, let's get the data now. So as we plan in future years, we can do it better.
Nice.
And it could even be like it's right now it's Middle East and North Africa, and we could look at it and be like, okay, well, North Africa might be a stretch, and the people far out they have to keep playing in Europe because the experience for them to play on the Middle East server is terrible, right? And like those are differences and kind of adjustments that we'll be able to make because of the data. There's one thing I want to throw out there too, actually. Southeast Asia actually think gets a little bit more money in their prize pool
Mm.
this year from previous years. They get a little boost, not a ton, but they do get a buff. And then the time actually has shifted, and this is something I don't think folks have noticed, but historically, when we do the streams for Southeast Asia and Australia, Dime, you've casted a couple of them, and
I've
that timing
casted
hasn't
both
changed.
regions and it
They
worked
start
okay for me.
you're
Yeah.
3 hours behind, so
Yeah.
it's better for you, right? So we'd start
Yeah.
Eastern time. Tournament starts around 7 p.m. Eastern time. Stream starts at 9 p.m. We region switch at midnight. We're done at 2 a.m. Europe starts at 8 a.m. the next day.
Oh,
The stream starts at 11 a.m. and we go all the way through to 9 p.m. because we also do South America, right?
right.
Yes.
Um, that's awful on your body. And
Yeah.
100%.
more than that, when things would go wrong with technical things on a Friday at 2 a.m., there's no time to fix them.
Right.
And so we've looked at it and we've switched the time. So the tournaments still start on Friday now for those regions, but for us, we're starting at 6 a.m. rather than 8 p.m. And
Interesting.
so
Okay.
what that does is it makes it more sustainable for the U.S. Eastern-based broadcast team and tournament team, right, which is really important. Also for our European TO Pingu, who does all of his events. Can you imagine being in Europe? He stays up all night, like doing this
Yeah.
stuff. And the timing is about this, the best we could do for that change. So, it's about a 12, give or take, hour
never
difference either
casting
end.
another one of those again, 3 a.m. in the morning.
I mean, just don't go to bed on Thursday, and there's your solution, right?
Oh,
Easy,
work's gonna suck
easy.
the next day.
But yeah, I mean, that's a big change that I'm going to call that out a couple times in some of the dev streams too next time.
No,
I'm
that's
on
cool. That's a
and all
huge
that sort of
change.
stuff.
That's better for you guys and better for them. A little more visibility. They get their own day.
I hope it's better for them. They'll get more visibility on the stream at least, because it's
Yeah.
not at the worst time period for literally every region of the world.
Yeah, they'll get more time. People will watch them.
Like for context too, like some of them were starting the tournament at 6 or 7 a.m. their local time, which
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If I'm competing, I ain't waking up at 7 a.m. for a competition. Hell
Yeah,
no.
me neither.
Yeah.
Wait a second. I wake up at 7 a.m. all the time for competition. And I'm on the same continent.
Oh, well. It happens. I know kind of the theme so far for this year is like sustainability for esports, right? And I feel like a lot of that sustainability, I kind of want to call this out, is like also directed at like making esports more sustainable for your team. At least it feels that way with like some of the scheduling and things, because I don't know how much people really understand how much like all of the people that are doing production and running these events are, especially in that sort of like gap of time where so much is happening all at once. Like it feels like you guys are literally killing yourselves to make these things happen.
Because we are.
And
no, so a consideration is always the health of the team producing the things, because if the team is unhealthy and is unsustainable, then the stuff doesn't happen. That's a really important point, right? It's like, from just a longevity of standpoint of the thing that is happening, right? The event that is happening, you have to have people who are able to do that and able to do that healthily and able to do that consistently, right? We're blessed in that we have a broadcast team of people who we've been working with for years. Zaruga does most of my replays still. Sandwick does a lot of side streams. Expired does side streams. Froned, who used to be a caster, does graphics for me, right? It goes through and through. There's another side to that too, which we haven't quite solved this year, and I'm still kind of puzzling on how to do this, which is also that it's too much for a viewer. Seasonal weekends, back-to-back weekends of about 30 hours of broadcast is a lot to ask anyone to watch, right? Saturday, if you're watching from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m., what is that, like 10 hours, 11 hours to watch to get your rewards and to like be engaged in the whole thing? No one's watching that for that long time and feeling engaged. Right, like even if you put it on the background while you cook, like it's a different level of engagement, right? And so it's both of those things. It's like, what is going to be for a viewer a more palatable length of stream and broadcast to watch, and at a better time, hopefully, for folks. And then for the team, it is also like, what is something here that we can do that makes it healthier for people? So for me, right, the seasonals, back-to-back seasonals would be like a 70 to 80 hour work week, and then a 30-hour broadcast weekend, which would be like another 40 hours. And then I'd do that again, right? Do that 2 weeks in a row. I could do that when I was 26.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here like 30 is the oldest thing, like oldest age in the world. It's not. But it is harder. It is harder to do that now, right? Like,
yeah. No, I feel that.
And I think this way is just better for everyone and healthier for everyone. And that is something, honestly, I am excited about. If you look at the events that are happening out of the studio, right, like the BMG studio events, it's one event a month. Not exactly a month apart, but it's one thing a month where I have to be on the weekend, where the team has to be in on the weekend, working extra hours to do this. Literally, like last year, there was 1 week I worked 112 hours or something.
Jeez,
for a broadcast.
Weeks in a week.
My eyes were literally like, I've never been so bloodshot. Like I popped like 4 blood vessels. Like one night I literally just like at 3:30 in the morning, I went and took a 30-minute nap on the couch and then went back to work and kept going through the tournament the whole day. And then basically did the same thing. Like,
we know you do that. I think the viewer and most competitors don't exactly know that. So, yeah.
I mean, it can be better, and that's part of that is like organizing and planning.
Yeah.
But part of that is like, does the structure allow you to get to a point where you can do that, where you can plan that and be ready to go for it? And back-to-back seasonal weekends is not always the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where's the West tournaments, man?
Time.
Let him have it.
Hey, we just had a trolley.
You just had one, a community
and it got
tournament,
100
right?
people.
Let him.
So could you imagine if BMG
Let
hosted
him have it, Toast.
even $1,000 tournament? We'd get like 250, 300 people.
Let him have it, Toast.
Psyched that you have community tournaments who are doing stuff in US West. That's awesome.
Just tell him that West isn't. Just tell him that West isn't a real region.
Just delete my server at this point. Then give me no choice. At least put on LAN here. You didn't even do that this year.
Doc, San Diego was hard.
I know.
People love San Diego.
That's a hard state, though. Union issues and stuff, right?
San Diego was nearly so catastrophic that I was almost about to pull the plug on another LAN last year.
Yeah,
we got through it, and it was great. And other than Katy Perry and the concert blasting during some of the most important sets of the tournament, it was a really good time, I think, for attendees. It just some of the behind the stage things, which I'm not going to go into, right? It's not really like the right thing to do. Were really like quite challenging and had some long lasting impacts that we were able to navigate around, which is great.
That's why I was hoping for Evo. At least that's still West Coast. That's a cheap state.
I meant to ask this earlier and forgot because we got sidetracked. So you mentioned that Europe players can play on the Middle East, North Africa.
No, other way around.
Middle East, North Africa can play on Europe.
Yeah. Sorry.
On Middle East.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. The people that are currently playing on Europe but fall within Middle East, North Africa can play in those events. Mm-hmm. Does that apply to the people that are also currently playing like SEA?
Yeah, I mean, more or less, like, I'm not trying to limit people out here, right? So if people have been playing in a region for them that is what they're used to and is what is beneficial for them, right? The point of this year is not to lock people out of doing what they're used to. It's to get data and create some support and some buzz for stuff we can do in the future and make sure we're doing it right.
Can Australian players play in SEA?
I mean,
I guess
probably.
They're not really region locked. I suppose they could. I could play in Europe if I wanted to. I just can only pick one tournament.
You can only pick one. Yeah, I mean the rule is that you
can play in whatever
tournament to play
region you want. Yeah,
but that's the one. So you could play in Europe, but then the same North American tournament that is like associated with it.
Exactly. I just answered my own question, is what I'm saying. So they could play down there, I suppose.
So just to clarify, then the people that choose to play the Middle East, North Africa tournaments cannot then also play the other region events as well.
No, they have to fall in those countries.
Yes.
No, I mean the people. So like Introvert to
I'm not following your question.
What?
Introvert can play in both because I believe he resides in one of the countries for both.
It's
okay. So because he's been he's been competing in Europe because that's the server region that has worked best for him. I'm not now saying you cannot play in Europe because you have official support with 2 tournaments, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm saying you can continue doing that, and then you can still compete in the ones that are in the region that you actually you live in.
Right. Okay.
But the people who don't live in that region, who are in Europe, like the people in Spain, cannot play in the Middle East tournament because they're in Spain, right? Like they're squarely in Europe.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense. Yep. Okay. I think that is about all that I had for questions. Dime, do you have anything else?
I think I got everything that I wanted to get to as well, I suppose. Yeah, I think I'm okay.
Okay. Toast, do you have any
questions for us?
I was going to say last comments. Before we...
I'm kidding. I know.
I mean, honestly, I'll just say that again, that like, I think this year of esports is really sick. Like, I'm actually so excited for this year of esports. For this year in general, I'm really excited, and things are different, and there's a shift, but yeah, I think it's a shift that puts us in a really good position going forward. And I'm happy. Like for like, we're never gonna put out an esports schedule, an esports format that we look at and we're like, it's kind of shit, eh? Like this is not
Ah,
gonna
this is
happen,
it.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know, this is
Right.
like, okay, like we're phoning it in. Like, you know, we've been cooking on this schedule and on this format since like March of last year.
Mm.
The dates that went public, we settled in those dates back in October, right?
Oh wow.
Like we are planning ahead in order to succeed, right? And that's like that is going to be continuing thing to do, right? So like I already have ideas about 2025, right? That we've been cooking. I have ideas about
Mm.
how that could lead into 2026 and so on and so forth. Um, and so, you know, it's cool. The royales are going to be really sick. Open to the public, if we can make that happen. Redemption bracket, if we can make that. Well, we are making that happen. That's going to be sick, right? And then 12 players. Like South America is going to be there in with four players. You know, like that's so cool.
Did we touch on the we didn't touch on the Royale prize pool at all, did we?
They went
Have
up
It's eight
have you
thousand
guys?
dollars.
8,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, nice.
Okay.
And the prize pools for the Royals have always been such that you make money just by getting
Just
in.
showing up.
Mm.
Yeah.
So even
Right.
you get 12th place, like your flight is covered, your hotel is covered. We do food a couple times, not every meal, but we do some meals, and then you get money. I
Mm.
don't know what the split is off the top of my head. I want to say you get something like $200 or $300 just for being there,
Mm.
um, or something like that. It's something like that. But yeah, it's $8,000 for the Royals,
Gotcha.
which is more than last year, but it's also more players than last year. But it is more than last year.
And then if you if you were asked to put a number on what the total prize pool is for Brawlhalla Esports this year, what is that number, or what would that number be?
Take a guess. What do you guys
I
think it is?
I'm ballparking something in the neighborhood of like 500,000.
Time?
Um. Well, with the thought of 100,000 and then that BCX being bigger, yeah, I could see 500. I could see, I don't know, 750, 500 to 750 kind of is the ballpark in that range.
You guys are close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money that people are
It,
complaining about.
I know. That's what I was thinking.
It's a lot of money to be complaining about.
I guess
I
I
mean,
that's
like,
wish, and it's a lot of money that a lot of people are going to walk away from $0 with that they're complaining about. So, yeah.
what I'm curious to
Yeah.
see what's going to happen. And again, like how people feel is their right, and it's totally okay. Like I'm cool with it. Like people can be upset and mad, and like that's
sure.
great. That's feedback. Like when people feel that way, it's because they're invested, because they care, and I think
Yeah.
that's great. Like I think that's really important. You know, I think you know. I'm really curious because there have been a few people who are like, oh, I'm just going to stop practicing, and I will bet my boot that there are going to be some ranked nutters out there who are just going to pop out of nowhere and they're just going to win everything because they're all they do is just go crazy.
Nah,
It happens
Sandstorm
every
said he's
year,
still
you know.
practicing. Sandstorm said, "Yeah,
Oh,
I'm still practicing."
one of the things that I'll throw out there too, actually, that I didn't say is that they're not regular tier ones for the BCTI, but there are a couple of folks who are running smaller lands, like local type things on their own. And we are doing some support stuff for them as well,
Cool.
Nice.
where we're giving a little prize pool and stuff like that. It was like one of the things, like a lot of them apply, but um, it didn't quite fit into the right shape for a tier one BCTI, but it was a
Sure.
really cool thing. And it was like, how can we
Help
support
anyways.
this? So like there's an FIU thing happening
Oh yeah, I heard about that. Yep.
in February, I believe, that we're gonna do some support for. Kostelix was planning earlier. I hope he's still planning to do some stuff in Toronto. That there's a chance that we're probably going to do a little more support for. There's a European group that reached out to us too that I'm hoping to get some support into. So like I say that like I acknowledge, you know, like people want more lands and want to be more in more events. And so like where I can, we're trying to like juice up some people who are doing it on their own, right? And I think that's also really important. Estes out is a LAN every year that gets like 200 people at it just
Oh yeah.
in Brazil. Like it's sick. It's really cool. It's the one that like Godly and
Oh
everyone
yeah.
flew out to last year. They did. That's the second year they've done that, I think, and that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. No, that's really awesome.
Okay, I can literally talk forever. So
I know.
all I'm gonna say is, like,
So can
enjoy
I.
the year of esports, please.
Yeah.
Register for CEO and get your hotel now. At least if you do anything, just get your hotel. Like
Yeah.
just so you have a
Registration, you can
hotel.
wait, but get a hotel. Yeah.
Get a hotel so you can
Yeah.
go. And then stay tuned. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming. It'll keep trickling out. Yes.
One final question. You mentioned earlier that the majors that are going to be on like SSL, Moose Wars, Brawl League, and such, those are going to be on those channels, right?
Correct.
Ooh.
What one concern that I have seen in the community that is a big concern people have mentioned is that like majors are going to take place and they're not going to be seen by the same number of people that would see it if it were on the main Brawlhalla channel. Is there anything that you guys are doing to try to help with like traffic to these sort of like alternate streams, any viewership rewards, anything like that will hopefully get people in to see?
There are things that are in the works to help direct traffic to these streams that I cannot talk about. But I am very excited for them, and they will be cool. Partly also, I have this idea in my head that I haven't figured out quite exactly how I plan on doing it. And I just lost my window. There we go. I want to try and bring back the kind of the esports clip shows a little bit this year, especially after these weekends where they're not on the main channel, to kind of highlight what's happening off the channel as well.
Sure.
How I do that, I haven't figured that out 100%, but it is kind of there. But yes, to your question, yes, is a good concern. My goal for it is that their viewership should explode and should be higher because it is a higher prize pool. It is a power ranked. It is literally like it's just a major,
right.
It's just a major.
Follow up to that.
Yeah.
The on-screen talent. I love a lot of the casters that do these things for these tournaments, but they might not be at the tier of a Sparky, a Duke, a Foda.
So
you know what I mean?
What I will say about that is that in partnering with our tier ones, it is a partnership. And apart from the date and the branding, and the fact that they follow the same rule set we do, and the kind of the raw logistical frameworks, it's their event. Their team is running it, and it's on their channel because it is them. It's not Brawlhalla doing it; it's them. And that being said, we've talked about it, and there are some options that they have available if they want to tap into that talent. They can always hire that talent too. Like if they want to get Sparky, it's just a message to Sparky saying, "Hey, do you want to cast this?" Or to Duke or to Taza or so on and so forth. And at the same time, I think the community tournaments are also a really, really important place for up and coming new talent to kind of get out there and cut their teeth and just kind of get comfortable with it and into it. I mean, that's where a lot of people have come from. It's a hard game to get to the top because there's not that many slots, and we've got a lot of really good people.
Yeah.
There is actually one other thing I want to call out that wasn't in the video, hasn't been talked about publicly. It's just at the bottom of the year 9 esports post. If you go to brawlhalla.com/esports and scroll to the bottom, it's the community Brawlhalla Esports tools.
Yeah.
So these are, some of them are new and have never been released before. So ProStats exists. That's the one where you can access our database and look up the competitive history of literally any Brawlhalla player who's competed from 2016 onwards. You can see head-to-head. You can click to the sets they've seen. You can see what legends they play per year. You can filter it to officials or official plus community. It works really well. I mean, it's if you want to do some history and deep diving, you've got it. You've got it all in there. The two things that are new that are really cool is Gallarhorn, which is literally a slimmed down version of our tournament overlay toolkit that we use for officials that anyone can
Oh,
use and install. You need to know there's instructions, so you need to know like how to set up like a Node.js thing. It's all in there. I'm
sure,
not a
sure, sure.
programmer. I'm learning C++, but I'm not a programmer. And so like that's there. So for folks who are looking to get Streamline specific to Brawlhalla stuff, that's up there, and that's really cool. It doesn't do the stats. The way we do stats and that sort of thing is a very more in-depth specific toolkit, and actually costs it's like I have budget for it because we have to run additional like cloud setups to do that well.
Sure, sure.
But like the data, you can just do dash write stats, and the data is all publicly, and then you can just build your own system around it if you're savvy enough, right? And then the other piece to it is the stats API, which we have docs now for, and you can click into. But this is basically like if people want to access the data from the pro stats and build their own thing, or link it up to their own tool, or whatever, it's there. It's a full API with documentation. You can do it, I think, with Python or TypeScript.
That's cool.
Something like that. JavaScript or TypeScript. And so that's out there too. And so part of this too is we have a couple other tools. I have a community graphics package that has been kind of cooking for a while that has to go through a couple more revisions, but eventually it'll go out there, and it will just be like, hey, if you want to run a tournament and you want a graphics package, you can just take this one and slap your logo, and you get the PSDs and everything, and job done. Like it'll look decent. You get the core of what you need, right?
Nice.
So we didn't talk about that, but like that's cool stuff that we're doing that we don't really advertise too much because audience, I guess, is small, but it's cool. Yeah, go ahead.
While we're on this page and looking at it, also want to call out that there is a new, very detailed official rule book.
Yes, we have a real book
well.
now. It's great. It's 25 pages. People should take their time to look through it. The biggest, Just go ahead.
I was going to say, I have read through it, and I was going to ask if there is a potential maybe to get a streamlined summary version of it, potentially, for people that are going to be averse to reading in detail. Because I know how hard it is to get people to read things.
Especially dry things.
So, I mean, I hadn't thought about that, to be very, very blunt. I think it's a great idea. I'll look into it. The big thing that I want to call out, almost all of this is literally the same thing that everyone has been competing with, right? Like we took our rule set and like legalized it to make it an actual like really good full on rule set with definitions and everything. There's two things that I would call out. One is that mid-set coaching is explicitly prohibited when you're in person. Onlines, I'm not about to police people who are in a Discord call. I can't do that. That's impossible, right?
Sure.
But when you're in person, mid-set coaching is not allowed. And it's not allowed, I believe, explicitly between a grand finals and a grand finals reset. Those two kind of operate as a unit. I'm not trying to like break the flow there if someone resets, right? That's too easy to kind of game and manipulate. The other piece to it too is there is a time limit to redeem your funds or to accept your prize earnings. You have 90 days from the date of the tournament to get it if you've won money. This is 3 months. After 3 months, you've basically said, okay, I don't want this money, and you don't get the money.
It's forfeit.
It's forfeit.
I've heard some stories about this that are honestly kind of hilarious that makes this rule required.
Yeah, it helps a lot of people on the internal end too, because troubleshooting a tournament 10 months ago for prizing is just a nightmare. The caveat of that too is that like sometimes banks are dumb, and so like if we're in a process where like we're both making a good faith effort to like get this done, you're not going to get penalized for that.
Yeah.
But if you wait until day 89 and then you're like, oh, it's broken.
Yeah.
You had 3 months to do that, and like I understand life happens, but it's money that you've won.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's money that you've won.
We want to claim your money.
Like, yeah, like
come on, guys.
Like you played the game good, now get some money.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other thing there too is that I'm not explicitly going to require this. There is a parental consent and liability waiver form
Right.
on the last page, which basically says that at any point we can ask for that for like proof that you have it and that you've done it. And this is to protect the young people because we live in a society.
We do. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, very happy with the rule set. It's needed an overhaul in my mind for a little while, and so I'm glad this one got through. For what it's worth, too, like the core of that rule set was written last January and has been going back and forth with, legal and revisions for about a year. That's how it goes.
Yeah,
Nice.
for sure.
Yeah, I saw it and I read through it, and I think it's great. It looks good.
I don't
think
read.
It would be
I don't
nice
read
to have-
anything. I just get Atrophius to give me the bullet notes
This
for
is-
everything
this is-
afterwards.
Now you understand why I asked.
I just
Averse to reading.
I'm not actually, but I just know that Atrophius has read these things already. So I'm like, hey, what happened?
Yeah. So anyway, I will say it has been an hour and 20 minutes.
It's a good run.
I love talking to Toast, and I would talk to him for an eternity if
there's
we
lots
could.
of other questions I could ask, but we should just
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job of going through everything that I've seen a lot of rumblings about in the community and specific questions people wanted me to ask. So I hope that this was helpful, that it makes people feel better about this year's esports season, because like Toast, I am also very excited about it. I think
Me
we're
too.
doing some really cool things.
I'm excited to play meaningful Brawlhalla all the time. All the time. I'm excited to get 129th all the time, baby. Woo! Sneak in a 64th there, and it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Ooh, 64 gets you points.
Yeah, I know.
think.
I snuck in a couple last year.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah. So
All right. Well, thank you, Toast, for coming on. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's fun. I'll talk about esports with anyone any day. I love this shit. It's great.
yeah, we do too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I have been Atrophius. That was DoubleDime. Thank you, Toast, for coming on. This is another Brawlcast in the can. Have a good night, everybody.